There are giant looming questions about Project Marble. The plan to create a new downtown entertainment district, which includes a new Spurs stadium. We know we don't have all the data, especially on how taxpayer dollars will be used. We also agree that we don't want to lose the Spurs. But people wonder, who is downtown for anymore? Is it for tourists? Is it for business? Or is it for locals? Please rank these three. And Ms. Ortiz-Jones, I believe we start with you.
Business, tourists, and locals are on the same level for me. Okay, it's really important, to your point, that we do everything we can to fight to keep our Spurs and everything possible to also make sure that San Antonio gets a good deal. I've been very clear. I think we're actually premature in talking about some of the how much the city needs to pony up when there hasn't been nearly enough discussion of how the city is ultimately going to benefit. I've been very clear. We need answers to three questions. How much is it going to cost? Who's going to pay? And how is the city going to benefit? And then we can talk about the city's portion of that. My opponent, I know, feels differently about this. San Antonio Express News asked, and he said he thinks up to 50% of city funding should go toward paying for the new Spurs Arena. When we don't have all of this information, as you rightly point out, we haven't actually talked about the community benefit agreements yet. I think it's really premature. So I think it's important that folks understand why we are doing this in this way and in this fashion. And certainly, as anybody that's done any business, you know you don't negotiate against yourself, right? You've got to make sure you've got all the data before you talk about using city resources, as we've just described, giving all of the inequities in our community. I think it's possible we could get to a deal. This generational investment could help us address our generational inequities, but we should not be talking about levels of city funding absent sufficient discussion of how the city is going to benefit.
But going further, I want to interject here. The question was rank those three.
Yeah.
Business, tourists, locals.
Yeah.
Can you rank those three?
Steve, rank how much you love your kids. Who do you love more, right? All of those are important. And I think we can walk and chew gum at the same time. We can prioritize bringing businesses there. We can prioritize the tourist experience. We can also make sure that downtown isn't just a bunch of luxury condos and micro units, right? We can do all of these at the same time.
Yeah, I'd like to hear from Mr. Pablos and then follow up if you don't mind.
Here's how I rank it: jobs, jobs, jobs. We have to make sure that we have jobs for our locals. This is a jobs creation program. This is an economic development program. It could be a game changer. And just like we invest taxpayer money in training our people, I think we should also invest taxpayer money in creating jobs, good paying jobs. Downtown is a great place for tourists, for locals, and for business. We have to make sure that we create an environment for all three. You're right, I don't want to lose the Spurs. And they could go somewhere else, just like it happened in Seattle. They went to Oklahoma City. But that doesn't mean that our taxpayers are going to lose out. So we just have to understand what are the consequences of not investing in a Project Marble. Are we going to lose out on conventions? We are a tourist destination. We're a tourism city. So we have to make sure that we keep that in mind before we go and saying that we will not spend any tax money on there. And if we do, I will want to make sure that the taxpayers get the return on their investment and that all 10 districts benefit from it. And I have a plan for that.
By the way, all three of my daughters have now texted me asking who I rank 1, 2, and 3. Christine, go ahead.
Just really briefly. And Ms. Ortiz-Jones, you said that all are the same, and that's admirable, but the neighborhoods don't see it this way. Right? A lot of the neighborhoods, look at this potential investment downtown and say, well, I've still got packs of dogs wandering in the streets. So again, admirable to see them as equivalent, but the neighborhoods don't. How do we get there?
Well, I think we negotiate hard, and we don't negotiate against ourselves. The best way to get the highest wage jobs is not to already say, hey, we're going to pay for 50% of the new arena. You've got to look at what are the specifics, make sure we've got sufficient number of jobs at a sufficient wage for a sufficient amount of time moving forward. I've been very clear, is it possible, and I think we need to be bold, let's be bold. Why can't we think of the way in which investing in Project Marble can ultimately help us fully fund our pre-K for SA program program in our community. Why can't we think in that way? That's how I would be pushing, not signing us up for 50% to pay for this new arena, absent any information about an actual return on the investment.
And quickly, with Mr. Pablos, jobs, 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 agreed, but these are jobs in the tourist sector. And we know that historically, they don't pay a living wage. So is this the kind of jobs that we should be prioritizing?
Well, look, I disagree. I think jobs that are born out of tourism eventually lead into management positions. You create entrepreneurship. So I don't buy into that. I'll tell you right now, our city needs to continue to invest in jobs for everyone and jobs that are going to pay well. Now, this issue about the neighborhoods, my plan is to invest in every single one of the districts equal amounts of money that are coming out of the revenue of this project. We have to take that revenue, put it into a fund that is then segregated for infrastructure and public safety for every district.
May I?
I want to clarify one thing before we take our next break. And Ms. Ortiz-Jones said that you are committed to giving up to 50% of the total cost out of taxpayers' dollars. Is that accurate?
Look, here's the thing is, when we went to the Express News editorial board meeting, they put a questionnaire in front of us and asked us to fill it out immediately. Ms. Jones didn't do that. She didn't fill it out. I filled it out because what I wanted to do is I wanted to create an environment where we have the private sector and business sector and public sector cooperating. We have to make sure that we go out into the world and look at best practices. And best practices dictate that you have to have a public-private partnership. And what a better way to start than right in the middle? That was my reasoning, not that I was going to sell out the taxpayers she's been claiming.
Can I answer that? I didn't answer that questionnaire, and I pushed back when they put that survey in front of me and frankly said, well, everyone else answered it. I don't care what everyone else did. I'm not signing our city up for something that we don't have nearly sufficient information for. A best practice, and what is the best practice when you're signing your city up to pay for 50% of a new Spurs arena and you don't have any information about what is the 50%? Is it 1 billion? Is it 2 billion? How does the community benefit? Do we have an agreement about how long the Spurs are going to stay in our community? Do we have any of that? No, but Rolando said, okay, let's just fill out this thing. Absolutely not. That is not the mayor I would be. If you want somebody to sell you out, vote for Rolando.
Rolando, I'll give you 15 seconds to rebut that.
Look, personal attacks and attacks on my integrity and my reputation aren't going to work. You know, I've been in this community for way too long. People understand that I'm in this to protect this community. And so to say that I'm going to sell out the taxpayers is simply ridiculous.